In this video, I'm going to help out answering this question about a weighted mark for a student who has 4 pieces of assessment, and we have the percentage associated with each, and we also have the weightings associated with each assessment. And what we need is an average that reflects the weightings associated with each form of the assessment. So we can do that in SPSS, where we could have the first assessment being let's just string it out. You need to select string for a variable that has letters associated with it. So let's write down the first one, which we got participation essay group report. So participation essay group report and final exam. And the student got 90% for the participation, and then they got 72 and 78, and 64% on the final exam. So this is what the student got for marks. Call that assessment, marks, and we need to put weighting, what it's actually worth in terms of overall percentage. And participation was 10%, and the essay was 30, group report 25, and the final exam was worth 35. Is that right? 10%, 30, 25, 35. Yep, okay, so let's just make sure that adds up to 100. So 10 plus 30 plus 25 plus 35, 100. So what is the final mark for this student? It's not easy to tell. You can't just calculate the average here, because that doesn't reflect the fact that participation is only worth 10%. So 90% is a great mark, but the weighting is only 10%. So this is exactly the same in principle to the n-weighted mean that I describe in the actual chapter. Except in this case, we're finding a weighting. It's a assessment weighting mean for each of the marks associated for the assessment. So let's calculate the average if everything was not weighted. So we're just going to calculate the marks as if it didn't matter that there was a difference in the weightings of the marks. So it would be 76%. So now let's actually apply a weighting to this, and we're going to put the weighting in there, and you have to click OK, and let's just make sure that that worked. And now it says weight cases by weighting. Good. So let's actually calculate what I get here. Let's calculate frequencies. We've still got the mean. Yep. And click OK. And now we get a 72.5 as the assessment weighted mean for this student's marks. So that's how you can calculate it for yourself if you're ever in that position and you need to do so. I think what I find with some students is that they haven't done the final exam yet, and they want to know, well, what can I get? What do I need to get a particular mark? And you can play around with that if you want. You say, well, if I get a 60 on the exam, you can just actually recalculate the mean, and you'll see what you'll get. Or maybe all you have to do is pass. Will this student pass the overall unit if they get a 50 based on all these marks? Well, we can actually test that right now. Whoop. And the student ends up with a 67.6. So if the student passes the exam, they'll get a high 60. And that's how you can play around with a weighted feature in SPSS.